Alright, so what I've done is I've got the deer hung up and I'm just working my way down from the hind legs down the whole body of the deer, just skinning it out. And I know a lot of people don't do it this way, they splice it down the middle, but I've tried it that way and it just comes out with a lot of hair on the meat. That's the one thing that I just cannot stand, is a bunch of hair on the meat. Getting any of that hair into any of the meat you're going to eat, it's going to give it a real gamey flavor in there. I just pulled the bullet out of the deer. The bullet didn't pass all the way through. It hit the opposite shoulder and then went somehow ricocheted back to about halfway back in the deer and was just stuck there under the skin. Alright, so I'm working my way down here to the neck of the deer. And I'm just taking my time because I'm definitely going to get this one mounted. It's the biggest deer I've ever shot so far. And I'm going to take extra care so the taxidermist doesn't have a lot of extra work to do. And this deer was just incredibly hard because for some reason the hide was almost glued onto the meat. And I was really trying to take my time, but this one was definitely tricky. Most deer, it comes off a little bit difficult because the skin's tighter around the neck. But man, this one was something else. And now I'm getting down here to the legs and I'm taking my time, just trying to make that transition between the neck and the legs. And you want to make sure you keep intact the hide down about 6-8 inches or so onto the legs, because part of the front leg is actually part of the shoulder mount. So you just want to make sure you take your time and don't create any extra work for your taxidermist. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back straps off. So you want to work your knife right along the spine all the way down and up into the rib cage. And then you're just going to start up at the top right below the ham. There's a bone right there that you've got to work right under. And then you're just going to kind of work it out almost like you're filleting a fish real carefully. You want to try to, that's one of the best cuts of meat on the deer, so you want to try to preserve and keep it all intact as much as possible. So just take your time and work it down slow and it'll come right out. Alright, so I've got my back straps out, and now the shoulders, I shot the deer right through the shoulders, so it's got a little bit of bloodshot in there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to cut around and get as much meat off of the deer as I can around from where the bloodshot is. So most of the times I just take the whole shoulders off, but on this one it's a little iffy on some of it, so I'm going to get as much meat out of it as I can. Alright, so I've got him lowered down now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to work around and get in the socket there and separate the hams from the spine. And I'm going to cut right there at the knee joint and go ahead and separate the hams from the legs. And then now I've got to dispose of the carcass. And I did open up the cavity. I normally get the sweet meat off of them, but that one, I think the way the bullet ricocheted through in there, it just had the guts all torn up and was pretty unpleasant smell. So I decided, unfortunately, not to get the sweet meat off this one or the tenderloins. So, and now I'm just going to get him covered up and I'm going to go take him up to the house and start working on the meat. So what I'm doing here is I'm separating the muscles groups. I'm going to go around the outside of the meat and take off any of the fat or the silver skin or fascious tissue. And all the little trimmings I'm going to save and I'm going to grind into hamburger. And whenever I separate these muscle groups, I'm just following, the grain of the meat and all the tendons and everything to get my muscle group separated. They're really good for roasts or to put on the smoker, and you do them just like prime rib. Or a lot of times we'll put them in the crock pot and do either barbecue or stuff like that. So I'm going to take these, and what I'm going to do is put them in gallon Ziploc bags, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator for 1 week, and that'll help them really kind of break down, and they'll become a lot more tender, and the gaminess will be all but gone. And that's something I really like to do with my meat. It really helps it. And I know I do it a lot with beef, and everybody's familiar with that. And I know a lot of people don't do it with deer, but it really works well. And you just put it in a gallon Ziploc bag and put it in the refrigerator. And I hope everybody enjoyed this video, and I appreciate you watching, and please subscribe.